And now for our final step, step 3, holding people accountable. Now, this is both a positive and negative thing depending on the performance of the team member, okay? I want you to realize that you have to give positive feedback and give credit where credit's due. If you keep a constant negative aspect going on, your team members will lose morale and they will not want to work there if you only focus on the negative, okay? So when you're following up and you see that somebody's done a good job, make sure you let them know they did a good job. Let them know they did great. Let them know what you liked about what they did. Let them know what they were doing that you think is going to be amazing and push them forward in their careers, okay? We're here to guide as leaders. We're here to guide as managers. We're here to make people the best that they can be, okay? Now, in order to do that, we need to hold them accountable for their positive actions as well, too. That means making sure that we are taking the time and letting them know how amazing they really are based on what they've done. Now let's go back to what we were talking about in the very last step. The worst worker in your business will think he is the best if you don't give feedback, okay? You also have to hold them accountable whenever they are not meeting performance expectations, meeting your expectations, company's expectations, causing issues, causing problems with other team members. There's just all sorts of different ways that we can go about this. But the key factor here is making sure that, one, we are communicating what those deficiencies are in a proper manner. Obviously, if a team member isn't performing to standard, you have to hold them accountable for those actions. Now, we talked about the positive side of it. Let's dig into the negative side of it. And this is going to take a little bit because we have a lot to cover. Because when you are holding a team member accountable for bad production or whatever it might be, there are certain standards we have to follow in order to do it correctly, okay? Now let's start going over some of those. Do they show a pattern? Okay, this is critical, okay? If you're gonna write somebody up or have that, communication or that conversation with them about their performance or whatever it might be, you need to make sure it's not just a one-off. Look, everybody has a bad day. You've had a bad day, I've had a bad day. What we are looking for is consistency. Do they show a pattern? Is it, every other day? Is it only on Mondays? Are they calling out only on Mondays? Is their performance, below standard for 4 out of the 5 days of the week? You're looking for a pattern. You have to be able to show a consistent pattern of whatever it is that you're having the issue with in order to start the write-up process or any process that involves having those hard conversations and making your team member better or just letting them know that they're not up to speed. Now this swings us back around to step number 1, and that is measurability, okay? Measurability of the expectation that you're set or the company is set or whatever that might be. And there's 3 big ones that we look at: attendance, quality, and productivity. Now, in any business, typically you will have those 3 facets for your team members. Now, attendance points are great because if you have a strong attendance program, let's say, you have a verbal warning after 2 absences, and then a second written, and then it goes into finally a termination, something to that effect, that is going to help you because that is a standard measurable process or program that is already in place. So when you got the guy that doesn't want to show up on Mondays or whatever the case may be, or he's shown a pattern consistently or whatever it is, that is your right there in order to start the write-up process with him. And when we talk about the write-up process, we do this in order to make our team members better, to let them know that there's an issue that they need to resolve and let them know that we're there to help them. But we'll get more into that. Quality is always a big thing. If I'm packing boxes or if I have to do something that's going to be presentable to a customer, that is when we talk about quality. Quality is measurable because there are usually a set standard of what you want, whatever the product is, to look like or be presented to the customer in such and such a way. And of course, the last one, the big one, is productivity. Now, when we take a look at productivity, we have to think about the fact that there might be a standard or a goal, a metric, whatever it might be that is set there. And when we look at that set metric or goal, we have to ask ourselves, is this a one-off that this team member didn't do good that one day, or is this a pattern? We go back to that pattern, we go back to that consistency. But typically, there are standards in place. I have to produce 100 boxes an hour in order to meet my minimum productivity. Now, if your business or your structure does not have that, I highly recommend putting something like that into place, because if a team member doesn't know what the standard is that they're supposed to accomplish, you can't really do anything about it. That's on you. You didn't set that expectation of, hey, you have to do 100 boxes an hour. So your team member does 50 boxes an hour, you say, hey, you should be at 100. Oh, nobody ever told me that. Well, now you can't do anything about it. Now you have to reset the expectation and start all over again on the steps. Very critical to have solid production expectations in the mix for whatever you're doing. All right, let's talk about the big dog. Let's talk about write-ups. How to write a person up. The first thing I am going to tell you, and we'll talk about it, is the HR factor. That's right, human resources. They are loved or hated, or you think they're okay. But either way, a lot of people don't realize that HR is a tool for you to utilize to make your life better and the company's life better. Now, let me explain this. What I do is whenever I'm going to have a write-up, what I like to do is I like to draft that write-up and I send it to my HR team and get their buy-off on it. That sets the stage for, hey, look, this person needs disciplinary action. This is why they need disciplinary action. And if your HR team has any issues with it, they can talk with you about it. Maybe they want something worded a little bit differently. That's what they're there for. They're there to point you in the right legal way to say or do this write-up to where everybody's going to come out ahead. The employee, the company, and you. So use them as a tool. That is what they are there for. They are a tool to help you. They're a tool to help you manage your team and your expectations. Use them. Also, you need to make sure you're following your company's progressive disciplinary actions. Most companies have it to where it's, let's say a verbal, a written, second written, maybe a suspension, and then a termination. Okay, you can't just jump straight to suspension or straight to termination without very extenuating circumstances. Once again, HR will help guide you on what this should be. So if you haven't had that verbal write-up yet with your team member or that written, you can't jump steps. Just like you can't jump steps in what I'm teaching you here right now, you have to set the expectation, follow up, hold people accountable. You cannot jump steps in progressive discipline. Unless, like I say, there are some very extreme cases, but that's what they are, extreme. They are the exception, not the rule. And why do we do write-ups? Why do we do things like that instead of just going and talking to the employee 6 or 7 times and then firing them afterwards? Because if it's not on paper, it never happened. You can go and write up a team member and be like, hey, look, we've talked about this several times. I'm going to give you a suspension. Well, we haven't talked about it several times. What do you mean? I don't remember those conversations. I didn't take it that way. So when you get their signature on a disciplinary action form, that is legal, binding, and shows what stage you're at in their progressive discipline. It is very critical that you have that conversation with a written piece of paper on which you will sign and they will sign, okay? Because there is no arguing with that. There is no negotiating out of that. That is solid, that is factual, that is legally binding, that holds up in court. That is why it is so important that when you do disciplinary action, it is written and signed by the team member. I cannot stress this enough. Now, some years back, I was having a conversation with a bunch of supervisors that, basically had a lot of safety issues in their area. So I was brought in to kind of show, hey, this is what to look for, this is how to deal with your team members, so on and so forth. I had one of them tell me, well, we're not the police. It's not our job. Yes and no. No, you are not a badge-carrying, certified police officer. but it is on you to call out mistakes, especially safety issues that you see when you see it. So if I'm walking around the facility and I see somebody acting in an unsafe manner, it is my duty as a manager or leadership personnel to tell that team member right then and there, hey, stop. Do not continue to do that. Please, let's discuss it if you have any, confusion about whatever the rule is, okay? Because at the end of the day, if you walk by and you don't say something and that team member gets hurt, that is on you. It is on you to make a safe work environment. It is on you to make a productive work environment. Point in case, if you walk by Tom and Tom's not doing his job, Tom's just sitting there BSing with a bunch of people, and you walk by, your team sees that. They see that you don't care that Tom's talking. Now they think, oh, well, I can talk. Tom's doing it. Management doesn't care. Here we go. That is why this is so important that when you see things like that, you call them out right then and there. Now, you don't have to shout across the facility. You don't have to run up and be angry and everything like that. But you do need to address the issue. You need to walk up to them and be like, hey, that is not the expectation of the company. Or, whatever it is that you need to say because of the instance, but you need to address it right then and there. That is your duty as a leader. That is your duty as a manager, and that is your duty to your team members. You owe them that. And if you stray from that path, they will start doing whatever they want, and you will not have a leg to stand on because you allowed it to happen. Now, as we've talked about, holding people accountable is very important because we need to have a smooth running operation, and we need to make sure that our team members are performing to the best of their abilities. Now, this is a positive thing, this is a negative thing. It depends on the situation. I'm giving you a rough guideline of what to follow. Set the expectation, follow up, hold people accountable. If you follow those 3 steps, you can manage anybody, but you have to be consistent, you have to be fair, and there are about 1 billion situations that if you follow the basic premise of this, you'll be fine. Your team member will be fine, and everything will go according to plan. Now, there's plenty of situations out there that I'd love to talk to you about that you will probably have that I will never see. But once again, if you follow these 3 steps consistently, your team will see that. Your team will see you as a leader. They will see you as a consistent leader, which is very important, and they will know where they stand because you have set solid expectations. You follow up with them, you communicate, you give feedback, you communicate in the proper way, and you hold them accountable. And team members love accountability. They won't say it because they love accountability for everybody else but them. That also goes to the old adage, and I've had this so many times. I will be sitting there writing somebody up, and they will say, oh, well, John does this all the time, and, he's never gotten written up for it. And to which I reply, look, you don't know if John has been written up for it or not. I'm not going to go out to the team and let everybody know, hey, I wrote up John for this. Would you prefer me after this to go out to the team and let them know that I wrote you up for this? That way people that might have questions about your performance know that I'm doing an action about it. To which they usually reply, oh, well, no, I don't want that. Okay, then this is why it's confidential. You have to have trust that we're doing something as management, but I can't go airing out the dirty laundry for everybody. You don't want that. Nobody else wants that. So keep fair, keep consistent, and explain to the team members why we do some of the things we do. They don't understand. They don't see the picture like we see the picture. They don't see the people like we see the people. Sometimes a little bit of an explanation goes a very long way.